Patriotism is the strong love and emotion against one's nation. But where does it come from? Ancient humans were living in small groups, tribes. Back then, survival depended on trusting the people in your group and being cautious of outsiders. This created a deep built in habit in our brains, dividing the world into us and them. This habit is ancient and automatic. But here's the interesting part: modern nations are way too big and abstract for anyone to actually know personally. You'll never meet most of your fellow citizens. So that ancient tribal instinct gets redirected onto something new: the nation, the flag, the national team. Roland Barthes would call this in his work Rhetorics of the Image a myth, not in the sense of a false story, but in his specific semiological sense, a second order sign system, where a sign that already has meaning, a player, a jersey, a flag, gets emptied of its original historical specification and refilled with a new, naturalized meaning: nation, glory, unity, belonging. Here's how it plays out directly. At the first level, denotation, you simply have a man kicking a ball, wearing a colored shirt. That's the literal meaning, innocent image. At the second level, connotation, myth, that same image gets appropriated by cultural code. The player's shirt is no longer just a shirt, it becomes a signifier for something else entirely: national pride, collective identity, the imagined community of us. Just as the tomato and pepper in the Panzani ad don't just denotate vegetables but connotate Italy. The flag on the jersey doesn't just denotate a piece of fabric but connotates nationalhood, an abstract, ideological, loaded concept dressed up as something simple and self evident. The connotated meaning, patriotism, unity, sacrifice, gets naturalized. It disguises itself as something that was always simply there, rather than something historically constructed, and in this case, commercially reinforced. The myth makes the ideological look like the natural. That's why the emotions can feel both genuine and random, or hollow. You're responding to something real, the underlying tribal instinct that's been deliberately hooked onto a symbol, the flag, the jersey, whose connection to nation is itself an invented, historically recent convention, not an eternal truth. When you look at it this way, it can all feel like a theater. Players aren't national heroes battling for your country's pride. They're just people trying to make money. You can't just watch the stage and enjoy the play anymore. You start noticing the 30 crew members working the lights, the sound, the whole set design, making sure you feel exactly what they want you to feel. Yet football isn't quite like theater. There's something real in it. You can see players crying after a win or a loss, and that emotion doesn't fade no matter how many years they've played. There's something real in it. But then you look at the stage again. Every corner has an ad, a jersey shop with your favorite player's name stitched on, your national flag printed next to it, yours for $49.99. And you start to wonder how much of this is really love for the game, love for the nation, and how much is just someone's business model. But it wasn't always like this. Football only turned professional in England in 1985. Before that, it was just guys playing for the love of the game. No salaries, no sponsors. Shirt sponsors didn't even exist until the late 1970s. Before that, club's jersey was just a jersey, not a billboard. Back then, the clubs were owned by locals. Now, clubs get bought by some rich Arab billionaires. And every match is a product engineered and sold. Better advertisement, more eyes, more money. So maybe the real question isn't, is this fake or is this real? It's how much of that real emotion, the tribal ancient thing in us, is just being harvested. The feeling is kind of genuine, but once you notice the stage, everything on it starts looking suspicious, especially the most obvious performers, the national fighters. What are they actually fighting for? Sure, a championship win brings economic growth for their country. The players get their moment of glory, the fans get their high. But strip away the cash and the dopamine, what's actually left? Where's the national pride in all this? Sure, the country name gets written into the record book, but there were 1,000 winners before and there'll be 1,000 after. The name just gets added to a list. So, where's the actual fight for the pride, for the nation? When in 100 years, it's just one more line in a book nobody reads twice. So, why is this patriotism angle even used in the first place? In football, it's hard to fully see it. The stakes are symbolic, not literal. No one's really sacrificing for the greater good of others. And there could be many reasons to why this patriotic narrative is being pushed so much. Of course, the most obvious one, patriotism sells. But we can mention more quieter reasons that can't be seen so much. It's technically a safe war. You get all the us versus them tension without anyone actually dying. It's an easy, low cost way to feel united as a nation without the mess of actual politics. And for governments, a winning team is free, positive PR, cheaper than fixing real problems, a lot easier to sell. Look, family, how good our country plays ball. That means there is real growth in our country. Good, good, yes. But in politics, you can spot the same pattern more clearly. And it's a lot more obvious and more brutal, darker. We live our day to day lives really not even thinking about the wider public of our nation. We don't know anybody, we don't really care about them. But when everything hits the fan and the nation is in danger, suddenly we're all in this together. We need to unite and defend our nation. The heroes get sent off with flags and speeches, but when those same heroes come home, many of them dealing with PTSD, struggling to reintegrate, some not making it at all. The flags are gone. Yeah, few parades here and there. Yeah, some yearly celebration to remember them, but how much does it help for the people that will never be the same after the war, who are struggling mentally and financially because of their journey? That's the real tell. If patriotism was actually about the people, about the nation as a community that takes care of its own, the story wouldn't end at the moment it stops being useful. It would follow through after the game, after the war, after the cameras leave, but it doesn't. Not always, and that's what makes you suspicious of the whole thing. Not that the feeling is vague, but that it gets switched on and off depending on who benefits. I cannot enjoy the show and stop looking at what is happening behind the scenes. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. Of course, go ahead and enjoy the championship. I know I will. But now you will have some extra brain power to stop being tricked into this feeling. Pressed on. We all in this together.